Welcome, Tangle friends. Well, we are over the midpoint from our Inktober Tangles challenge, and today we're going to do days 16, 17, and 18. And our first challenge for today is Walnuts by Udica Boyd, CZT. And it's really a fun tangle that you can vary in so many different ways. So I played around with it for a while before I decided to do what I'm going to do today. But there are so many beautiful other options out there. We're going to begin, obviously, first by inking out our Huggins, our Crazy Huggins, and I'm choosing this section here. It's a little bit fatter than the rest and will fit my tangle in there a little better. Okay, so we're going to start with our black pen. I'm going to start with my 01, and we want to make a star in the middle, a 5-pointed star like we used to make in school all the time. Now, personally, I said this is the way it goes according to the step out. Go down, up, over, back down, and up. And that's that one turned out really well for me. I find it easier to go like this to get an even star. But I have to say that one's really good. So this is one solid line, which is also pretty cool. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use her step out. Not bad. Could be longer here, but we don't have a whole lot of room, so this is going to work out just fine. Then our next step is to make sort of these petals between the 2 points, between all of the points in the stars, with a little dip. Nice fat petal. So I'm always looking at things as if they were flowers, obviously, but this was inspired by a walnut cut open, and I can certainly see why. Then we're going to put that little heart shape from the walnut inside. This I'm going to do actually in my 01 reddish brown. So you think of a heart, but you come way down here in the middle and round it at the bottom. That's going to become a little pearl or a gemstone later on. The next step is to aura this outside and then I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to think of this as a walnut in the shell, and I'm going to make kind of a wonky circle indicating that, do you see how if you look down it looks actually like the shell of the walnut here? But we're going to really abstract this a lot by, first of all, filling in. By the way, that is it. That's the tangle. Now we're going to finesse. So I'm going to fill in, first of all, this aura section, leaving the bumps in light, little highlights. Okay, so now on this outer rim, I'm going to do kind of just a lively line, diva dance type line, because it's just more interesting and does sort of look like the outside of a walnut, right? And now I'm going to do some line work in here on the star. For that, I'm going to take my 005 black. Well, I can't find it, so I'm going to take my 01. Just making some parallel line work here. Now I'm going to get into the shading part of this, which is going to be really fun because we're going to shade these little sections a bit like hearts with our Indian red. And I'm going to blend that. Finishing that off, we'll do that with our white colored pencil. You could also use your white General's charcoal, but since this is such a smooth paper, I think this sticks a little better. And then I'm just going to go back over it a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to just finesse this heart line a little here and just give it some weight. Also going to take my white and add them here as little highlights. And then we're going to start with our little gemstone here. Now we're going to concentrate on shading the black, and for that I'm going to be using my graphite. What I'm going to do is, first of all, shade around the star. And then I'm going to continue on shading to make this look kind of three-dimensional. And I'm going to lay my graphite always in this little valley here. See the valley? Don't worry about the outside. Look at this inside of the walnuts. And then we're going to blend that out. A little bit to either side. There we have that. And now we just have to figure out what to do with this background. You could add another walnuts here coming up to have some overlap, but I think I'm going to just do a simple line work like this in the back. Or, you know what? Let's try, what did I do? Let's just aura this with our red. Now we could also do lively line in here, but I think I'm going to leave it because I don't want to detract from the center point, which is our walnuts. So I'm just going to do this fine, almost topographic line work. And that is day 16 walnuts. Moving on to day 17, let me get my tangle tag ready. We have a little bit more complicated of a tangle that is also very beautiful by Johanna Quincy, CZT, and it's called Acropolis. Very pretty. Also a lot of different variations that you could use for it. And I'm going to put it in this space right here. So beginning again, as we always do, PN, and I'm going to ink out my Huggins. Let's see, it goes this way. Yeah, I think I'm gonna orient it this way. So I'll turn it like this so you can see. Getting my O1 black. We're gonna start with three little, oh, actually we're going to re-aura this line. I'm going a little closer this time. And then we're gonna make three little arcs. I'm gonna do three for my space. I think that works. And I wanna give plenty of space between them. And then I'm going to give plenty of room over here for my next arc. And then over here because we're going to build our tangle in there, and this tangle builds these beautiful little tulips, in my opinion. So I'm gonna be careful to make sure to not lose that. Then what I do, our next stroke is coming, but I like to know where I'm going. So it's gonna be halfway between these 2 points here. We're gonna make this almost like a pawn in a, in a chess game, that kind of a figure. This one's stretched. So going here. Guess that could have been a little sharper like this. That's okay. That's more how it should be. And then I'm just going to end down there. So this is more of the sharp angle that we want to get. Then we're going to add a triangle. Well, actually like a V, not a triangle, 2 triangles, a V shape down here in the neck of that pawn figure. And then we're going to aura everything. And then we're going to make another V shape going up here, but for that I'm going to change out my pen to my reddish brown, because that's going to form our tulip. So I'm going to go like that. Now in her step out, she goes a little closer here, but I want this to really look like, pronounced like a tulip. So I'm going all the way to the edge, and I think it's a little bit easier to do. Then that leaves us room to add a nice black triangle in here with another little aura space, so we can see that natural paper shining through. There's so many things that you can do with these triangles. I'm going to go ahead and just fill these in black as well. See, my mistake is going to actually just almost be eaten up by our further line work. Now we're going to come to our tulips, and I'm going to restate this line. It's pretty thin, and I might even flare it out there at the midsection a little bit. And then we can begin our shading, which is going to come with our Indian red on the tulips. So if you see this tulip, you've got this big belly here, and we're going to keep that in the light. See how far back my hand is when I'm adding this colored pencil? It keeps me from making it too dark. It's easier to control your pressure if you have your hand further away from the point. And my point could be actually a little bit sharper, but... And then I'm going to add a little bit of sienna brown on top of that, just in these areas where I want it to get a little bit darker at the very tip. And you don't have to do this. This is overkill, but you know me and color layering. And let's blend that with our colorless blender. And then with our white, we're going to go back in, get this a little bit sharper. And then I'm going to go back in with my Indian red and kind of blend again over the white. I'm just going to hit it up really lightly one more time. You don't want to dwell on your paper with these solvent blenders, because if you do, it will go right through the paper and affect the integrity. You could actually create a hole. All right, so now what are we going to do with this midsection here? I've decided to do some line work in there, so I'm going to use my 01 black. And I'm going to put them on the bias. To me, this looks almost like a keyhole. And we are going to make it look like it has more depth, like a keyhole, by giving it some shading. So with our graphite, I'm going to shade these areas. See how my mistake has been covered up? Yay! I'm just going to put it on one side. Otherwise, we're going to lose that highlight. Let's see. I think I'm going to go and make, I could have saved it out, but I am going to make perfs in here. I really like this jelly roll. It's not the Sakura. It doesn't sink into the color as much as the Sakura. It's Uniball. And we have that little aura line here that I think I'm going to go in and do a Beetlejuice treatment to pick up the reds on either side. So just stripes. It's amazing how much you can put in such a small space. I'm going to add a little bit more weight here. And there is day 17, beautiful Acropolis. Now we're going to move on to the challenge tangle of the day, which is also quite beautiful, but for me, it was more like Zen Tangle inspired art on its own. I did a little tutorial, if you haven't seen it, on mastering the first stroke, which is one solid line, which you'll see again here. And we're going to try to build that with a reddish brown pen. Okay, I got to collect myself because this is always a little bit of a challenge. We are going to not ink these out. We want to save out that space for what we're going to do. I'm going to even bring it out a little bit more, because we need to add some work at the top of our hearts once we've laid down the first stroke. So here we go. Hold my breath. Not as good as my original one. Okay, there we have our first stroke. It's always a little wonky in this stretched space, right? So next we're going to do, also pretty easy. This one, we're not going to see much of it. We're only going to see about, well, I'll do it here first so you can see what we're doing. Like that. So it'll come from here. We're sort of orating this line here. And then we're going to turn our paper and do it from, let's see. I have to turn my paper, but I have to find out first where it's going to go. So it's going to be opposite. So this is a tangle where you have to think opposites, opposites, opposites. So it's going to go from here to here according to my step out. So instead of just doing what we did here, we're going to go on the opposite side. And then I'm going to go back to my start. Otherwise I get so confused. Oh, did I forget one? I have to tell you what I did. I kept turning and turning and getting so confused. So I made 2 cards of a step out here. I made one, instead of adding them at the same these 2 on the step out that Yuko did, I added it down. I made it its own stroke. And then same here, instead of putting one up and down, I made them their own strokes, and same here. So I have actually a lot more steps than she does, but it helps me organize the tangle better in the step out. Like I said, for me, this is not the Zen. It is total Zentangle inspired art. The Zen is that immediate first stroke, which I just absolutely love. But this tangle hurts my head. It is really, really hard for me, and I might mess up on it now. So let's see what I do. Okay, next stroke is on this side. On the left side where we have the band, we're gonna do a little arc over to the midsection of this lobe. And that's why we needed that space. So there would be one coming to the midpoint of this lobe from over there. And then we're going to turn our paper. Well, it's going always to come from the side that the band is on. So we're turning our paper. This time it's coming again from here to the midsection of that empty lobe. Or my next step is to make these. If we turn our tile like we have been doing, this one's actually going to, yeah, it's going to go this way to the left instead of the right. There we go. Whew. Now we have left to put these final arcs in, and they go like this. What you want to do is kind of follow, the starting point is here, and the ending point is over here. So we're going to go from this point, over, well, like that. From here, that looks pretty wonky. Okay, so now we've got the shading, which is going to help us read all of this a lot better. And the shading goes like this. It's going to be the top or the outside, respectively. I'm basically just going to color this in. And again, before I continue on, I'm going to erase this line. It's irritating me. Yeah, we can clean some of this up by putting a black background in there. So back to my pencil, we're always doing the outside. I say outside because this is on the inside of the heart, right? This is the top and the outside right. That's getting a lot clearer for me now. And this is where you can add some really cool pattern, other tangles in there. I'm going to blend that, and then I might think about adding Can you hear Melina? She's catching something, a squirrel or a cat. We have 6 cats that I take care of next door, and she just loves them. Okay, one more thing for the shading. We're going to leave this one out. We're not going to shade that, but we're going to shade this one. Okay, and we can also shade a tiny bit down here. I'm trying to think of what to do next. Okay, I am going to do the Zentangle Tangle called, I forget what it's called, but I'll look it up and put it in the, it's not Bush. I love it. I think she originally did this. And she had an aura on it. But there's really no room for the aura line for me. This would be beautiful in a very large format. Sorry, I went off page. So what I did was just add that little tangle of line work inside the shaded areas that are very textured now. Oh, here's one more I can show you, just because I got off page. So go 3/4 of the way in on each of your strokes. And it creates like a little zipper. So I don't want to make it too black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the aura where I can on here, like that. And then I'm just going to fill in this back here. And I'm going to leave that in here, the natural color of the paper. I think it would get too dark if we colored that in. Thinking on the fly here with the hardest tangle. I should have really planned it more. But what we can do is, since we have our tan paper, we can add some highlights. So that is how I think I'm going to end that tangle today, and can't wait to see out there what other people are doing with this, because it's got a lot of really great possibilities. You know, I think what I'm going to do to make this have one final little elegant touch, I'm going to get my gold jelly roll, and I'm going to give that line some gold. Yeah, that looks better. You could actually make the hearts gold on the inside, but mine are so not the greatest shape, so I don't think I want to accentuate that at all. That is going to stay as it is. Okay, everyone, that was hard. I hope you got it probably better than me. I don't know, maybe my brain just doesn't get this tangle, but it is very beautiful. I just don't have the time to practice it more. What I do love is that first stroke. So there we have days 16, 17, and 18 of our challenge, and I wanted to make sure that you noticed that I did add some shading here so that this walnuts kind of is more grounded within our space. And I shaded here because there's the crossover, right? And then I knocked down the brightness of these with a little bit of shading on the pearls. So I will see you soon for days 19, 20, and 21. Have a great time filling up your crazy huggins. I hope you enjoyed this, and join me next time. Bye-bye for now.